This Friday is that August 1st deadline for negotiations between Canada and the U.S., and Canadian industries are waiting to learn what might change for them, deal or no deal. President Trump has announced deals recently with Japan and Europe. Both of them involved a baseline tariff, plus promises from the other nation to invest hundreds of billions of dollars and spend a lot in the United States. The American ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, spoke about chances for a Canadian deal today when he was in Winnipeg.
We now have agreements with Japan. We have an agreement with the UK, with the EU, and some other countries. Hopefully very soon we will be able to outline an agreement that is good for the United States and is also good for Canada to reframe exactly what that relationship is going to look like with Canada. It will change, but I am very optimistic.
Ontario's Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Vic Fedeli, joining us now, and he's in Washington. Minister Fedeli, good day to you.
Good day to you as well, David.
I know you are in Washington. You've met a lot of people today. Do you have any information that would suggest we are closer today to a deal between Canada and the U.S. than we were, say, last week?
Well, I think everybody is eager, in some cases anxious, for August 1st. But at the end of the day, you really need a deal that can work for all of Canada. And so we hope, of course, that that a deal is there to be made. But ultimately, it has to be up to President Trump if he's wakes up and says we're doing a deal today or not. That's really what it's going to come down to. I think the team here in Washington and all across Canada has been working very, very hard, and we'll have to see where the president stands on the 1st of August.
And he has previously said, and his Commerce Secretary has reiterated just in the last 24 hours, Friday's the day. It's got to happen by that day. But we've also heard, earlier on this program from a Republican senator, Senator Kramer, who said his hope is that, okay, perhaps they've been busy. They just haven't got to the point of getting a deal, but one is in sight. And so do nothing for now. No new tariffs, nothing like that, and just push the deadline. Do you see that as a likely scenario?
Well, anything is possible when it comes to President Trump, but I would say whatever happens here in Ontario, we're ready for all eventualities. And I think that's the important thing, that we just need to be prepared and to be able to have the supports in place for our businesses and our families. Should something happen on August 1st that we're not looking forward to.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. If we have a no-deal scenario and we have the threatened 35% tariff on goods that aren't CUSMA compliant, Ontario is the most trade-exposed province. What happens at that point?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, we're very pleased last March when Premier Ford was here and was able to along with the Canadian government, make USMCA, this is the NAFTA 2.0 deal, the deal that stands. And so about 92 to 95% of all the trade between Ontario and the US is NAFTA 2.0 compliant, so basically tariff-free. But there are still sectors like steel, lumber that are affected, and so we have to make sure that we have the firepower ready, which we do in Ontario, to help those sectors and to help them pivot as well. That's a really important piece, is getting them prepared to pivot. There are things that we could be making here in Ontario, more rebar, more I-beams, things like that we can use the steel for, making wider steel and thicker steel for the defense sector in Germany and the rest of the EU that need all that steel for shipbuilding and for tanks. They're freeing up $2 trillion in the EU just for rearmament. And so Ontario, they can't do it alone. They don't have enough horsepower to be able to put that kind of production out. They need Ontario and they need our steel. So we'll look to help them diversify around the world.
Minister, I do want to also ask you, in that no-deal scenario, your boss, Premier Ford, has said he wants dollar-for-dollar, tariff-for-tariff response. What evidence do we have that the retaliatory tariffs that we've put into place right now have worked? And I ask that because we don't yet have a deal.
Well, again, we'll look on August 1st, and the Premier has been very clear. We've been at the front end of our own retaliatory measures. We don't buy American liquor for our liquor stores. That's $1 billion a year in lost sales to the States. Province of Ontario buys $30 billion a year of goods and services. There's no American firm that can bid on that. We're in the middle of $200 billion of infrastructure, roads and bridges, subways. No American firm can bid on that. So I think our hand is very, very clear on how we feel that we need to handle this. Look, this is unjustified, unwarranted tariffs. They're illegal tariffs. That's our position. And we need to be able to fight back where the opportunities that came in front of Ontario are there. And we've been taking advantage of those opportunities.
Is the Premier still open to the idea of shutting off electricity exports from Ontario to their southern neighbors?
I think the Premier's been really clear that all options are on the table. We've really shown the strength of what we mean by that by eliminating U.S. opportunities on $231 billion that I mentioned worth of goods and services. And we stand firmly with the Premier on his statement that all options are on the table.
How do you, in the discussions that you're having with American lawmakers and American business and American groups, maintain your composure when you've got something that you have long said and others have said, these are illegal tariffs, but the White House doesn't care. We matter, they need our stuff, but the White House doesn't seem to care. How do you continue to have a discussion with people when they're the big guy, we're the little guy, and they seem to be able to do, to some extent, whatever they want?
Well, we try to bring some calm discussions into it. And I can tell you the sentence that I repeated probably at 6 meetings today was, look, it's hurtful for your president to say, we don't need anything from Canada. We don't want your cars. We don't need your steel. And I said at every meeting, look, you buy 80% of all the nickel you use in your aerospace sector comes from Ontario. 53% of all the nickel you buy for your defense sector comes from Ontario. These are two very, very important sectors, and people nod their head and they think, yeah, you do have a point there. And then we talk about things like potash. 95% of their potash for their farms comes from Canada. 60% of the aluminum they use in everything from beer cans to car engines comes from Canada. So when we just present the facts outside of the White House, people begin to understand. And that's why we've been back and forth here in Washington so many times, just meeting with as many groups as we can, senators, members of Congress, business leaders, industry leaders, and just give them the facts. We are the #1 customer for 17 states, the #2 customer for 11 more. 9 million Americans wake up every single morning to make products to ship to us. And we get a lot of nods. They begin to understand the important links and the linked business relationship that we've had, Ontario has had with the United States for more than a century.
Well, Minister Fedeli, I know you've had lots of meetings there in Washington today, and they've come on the heels of many more meetings by many other politicians, including Dominic LeBlanc, who's there in Washington at the same time as you trying to cut this deal. Good luck. Thank you very much for your time. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, David. We wish the feds a lot of success for Friday.
Absolutely. That is Ontario's Minister of Economic Development, Vic Fedeli.